Hi, everyone. I am Nicole Clark. I am excited to chat with you today about California state trial courts and how to use state trial court analytics and data to really gain a competitive advantage. So a little background on me. I was a labor and employment litigator. I did a lot of class action wage and hour work, and so I found myself in state trial court constantly. And I simply couldn't believe how difficult it was to access information at the state trial court level on the judges that I was appearing before, or on my opposing counsel and their other state trial court cases. And so what we've done is basically create a searchable system to search across the state trial courts. So in California, meaning one system to search across the superior courts by your judge or your counsel or your legal issues. I like to think of Trellis as sort of the way PACER lays on top of federal trial court data, making it searchable. We do the same, but we go in county by county and aggregate that data. So excited to talk today about how you can utilize some of that data to really gain a strategic advantage. So what we're going to discuss is going to be judge research to start, judge analytics, looking up your judge's ruling history, then how to utilize the state trial court system as a giant brief bank, how to use it to write better motions. How do you think about state trial court data in terms of exposure and case valuation? How to utilize some of that data to make better decisions? And then finally, how do you set yourself alerts so you make sure you stay an expert? And what are other research considerations that you can utilize that you can allow you to search across the state trial court system and really highlight and surface intel that's going to be helpful for you? And then I'll leave time for Q&A at the end as well, but you can feel free to put your questions in the chat throughout the program, and happy to get to them a little bit later. So to start off with judge research, how do you look up analytics on your judge and really try to get an understanding of your judge's data historically? So many of us will start a case, we'll get assigned our judge, state trial court, and what do? We send around an email asking if anyone has any intel on the judge that we've been assigned, maybe internally, maybe externally to colleagues outside of the firm. But what you're doing at best is collecting anecdotes. And so one of the things that's really important now is to actually look at your judge's hard data on the way they rule across case types and specific motions, and get a better understanding of your judge from the very start of the case. You should also be digging deeper to think about your judge's ruling history, the language, your judge's prior tentative rulings, how they have analyzed particular issues. Look at their MSJ grant rates. Do they grant MSJs? Do they not? Is this the right way to think about this case? And then utilize that data to set expectations with your client. So what I'm going to do is throughout the program, I'm just going to jump into our actual data and analytics and show you a little bit what I mean. So we're talking about judge research to start. Now, what I'm on is our website, trellis.law. And again, this is where we have gone on and basically compiled all the county data, structured it, made it searchable, and then layered analytics on top. So this search bar, think of it like Google for the state trial court system. And when I'm searching in California, this means in California, I'm searching across the superior courts in California. But we're talking about judges now, so let's get started with judges. I'm going to run up here to the analytics tab. And now I'm going to make sure I'm in the state that I want to be searching in. And I'm simply going to type in the last name of a judge that I'm interested in. And I'm going to click on that judge's name. And what I'm going to pull is a judge analytics dashboard. And what we do is we go in judge by judge and we aggregate all of their historical data. And we create.
Hey, Nicole, I'm so sorry to interrupt. The screen share isn't coming through.
Oh, no. Hold on one moment. This will be much more interesting for you guys.
Here we go. We can see it now. Great. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. So what I did really quick was I just went to the Judge Analytics tab. I'll just do it again for you guys. And then I typed in the last name of the judge I was interested in. And I click on their name. And this is where you're going to pull analytics on your judge. So from the start of the case, you want to understand information about your judge. And what we do is we compile these 5 tabs: the bio, the at a glance, motions, outcomes, and milestones. So the bio is going to be all your subjective information about the judge: career history, political affiliation, articles, buy-in about the judge, practical info like clerk's phone number, etc. So we put all that on one page, simple for you. And then the at a glance, this is going to be your high-level one-pager about the judge. So this is really a zoomed out view of the judge. How many active cases do they have? What's the number of days that a case sits before your judge? What's the judge's overall motion grant rate? Again, this is zoomed out. So across all case types, across all motion types, does the judge tend to rule more aggressively or more lenient? The verdict widget, this is going to be in bench trials. Has your judge historically ruled more often for plaintiff or defense in bench trials? And you'll notice that you should always look at your judge's data first. That'll be the first metric. But then we list county averages and state averages below, so that you can really get an idea of where the judge that you're researching is an outlier in comparison to other judges. Now, a little bit lower on the screen, this is going to be the judge's overall case practice area breakdown. So the big pie here, this is practice area, and it's going to load up the little pie, which is going to be matter type. Idea here is to think about the matter that you have before your judge and to understand, is a judge really sophisticated in this area? Do they hear this type of case all the time? Or is it something where you're going to need to educate the judge a little bit from the start of the case? Now, next, I'm going to go to motions. Motions is kind of the opposite of at a glance. Motions is going to be your granular motion by motion analysis for how your judge rules on important pretrial motions. So pretrial motions will be over here on the left-hand side, and you simply want to click on whatever the motion is that you're interested in seeing your judge's grant rate for. Now, again, your judge, their grant rate for the motion that you're researching is going to be first, then county average, then state average. So again, what you want to see here is, where is the judge a large outlier in comparison to other judges? Is this a judge that bringing an MSJ in front of is going to be useful? And actually here you can see he tends to grant MSJs far more often than the county average and also more than the state average. So that's a helpful piece of information to know when you're thinking about case strategy, and also when you're setting expectations for your client. Now, outcomes is going to be high-level case disposition information. So you're going to be able to drill down a couple ways, first by practice area, then by matter type. So let's say I had a wrongful term case in front of Honorable Hamilton. How have similar cases actually made their way through his court? So how many get removed to federal court? How many actually make it to trial verdict or get consolidated with other cases? So again, what you're looking at is, how do you use the historical information to really set yourself up for success in setting expectations for the client and in thinking about litigation strategy. And then finally, milestones is going to be your timing analysis. So again, you want to drill down by practice area first, then by matter type. And what I'm loading here is average case duration. This is going to be how long did the case take, basically. But of course, now, instead of what we looked at a glance was all case types, we're specifically looking at the practice area that we think is important. And your judge's info will be first, then county average, then state average. Honorable Hamilton's pretty close in line with other judges in the county and the state. But if you're actually going to make it all the way to trial before the judge, then expect to be before him significantly longer than other judges in the county, but certainly a lot longer than other judges in the state. So again, staffing, thinking about number of cases to take on, all of these, and really setting your client's expectations for how long it might take to resolve this case. And then finally, for all the cases that don't make it to trial, what we're looking at here is average time to settlement. And we do that by a proxy of when the judge first enters order of dismissal in the case. So we think that is a pretty good indication that a settlement was reached, and that's what we track to for this widget. So that's what you should be doing from the start of the case. You find out who your judge is. You should go on and check out your judge's dashboard. High level, think about the judge the year before. You should reach out to the client. You can share the dashboard with them. You can think about what are the pieces to bring them in to help set expectations. And it helps clients to know that you're utilizing technology, but also to give them some insight. It can be really powerless as a client, and just seeing some of this information and understanding how you're making decisions can really help managing client relationships. So we looked at the analytics on the judge, but how do you dig in on actual contextual judge research? Zoomed out is great, analytics are great, but they're one piece of it. Another piece of it is the judge's actual rulings, the facts of the case that he ruled in or she ruled in. So how do you dig deeper into that information? Well, that I'm going to show you is something you do in our Smart Search. That is really the homepage of our site. And to narrow into a particular judge's data, you're just going to type judge : no space, last name. So in this case, we're looking at Honorable Heiberger, who is an LA County Superior Court judge. So Judge : Heiberger, and now we're in the judge's data. Now, whatever you're searching in our Smart Search, you're always searching for buckets of data in California. So in California rulings, these are tentative rulings, searching across your judge's historical tentative rulings if you're searching for a judge. If you're searching for a judge in dockets, that's going to be high-level overview all of that judge's cases. Documents are documents filed in cases where that judge is presiding, and verdicts are cases that have gone to verdict before your judge. Now, the next step, once you've narrowed to your judge's data, is to add a case dispositive issue, to add a legal issue or a cause of action. This is where you get to actually dig in and understand the way that your judge has ruled on similar cases. So if your judge has ruled on your exact dispositive issue in the past, that's something you should know. And the data is available now. You just simply have to proactively peek in and try to understand the judge's historical data. So here I did Judge : Freeman, another LA judge, and design defect. I wanted to find Honorable Freeman's design defect cases. But the same can be said for putting in a motion type or opposing counsel to see if opposing counsel has appeared before your judge. Much like on any research platform that you guys are using, and or are going to be your main terms and connector. And in fact, I'll jump in and show you real quick. So for all of your substantive research, whether it be judge, opposing counsel, legal research, or combinations of those, you want to be in the Smart Search in our search bar. Again, think of this as your Google for the state trial court system. So just to show you again, I want to narrow into a particular judge's data, Judge : and then the judge's last name. I'll do another LA judge, Honorable Nietu. And now a reminder, we are always searching these 4 buckets of data with whatever you're searching in the Smart Search. Now, what I'd want to do again is add a relevant legal term, a cause of action. So, and then I'm going to say, I want to find her disability discrimination cases. Oops, I must have spelled, I did. All right, so now in the rulings, just to show you what a ruling page is, we are the largest aggregate database of tentative rulings. We're in a tentative ruling right now. And this is one where Honorable Nietu has ruled on a disability discrimination case in the past. And you can find incredibly valuable information by searching through your judge's prior tentative rulings. You can see the case law that they think is persuasive. You can see the legal threshold. There's so much information if you spend a little bit of time from the very start of the case to understand your judge. Now, a couple other notes. We're on a ruling page right now. Any ruling page is going to have all of the case metadata on it as well. So judge, this is going to take you to the judge dashboard, the bio. Case number, this is going to take you to the docket of the case. A little bit lower, parties. Clicking on any party will take you to all of that party's other litigation. It basically runs a search in our smart search for that party. And to show you a couple of our other pages while we're on the judge research aspect. So dockets. Searching across dockets, I'll jump into one. And I specifically wanted to show you Los Angeles Superior Court because we have over 100 million documents, filed documents that are searchable and live on Trellis right now. Now, as you know, there's some counties that are incredibly expensive to purchase documents from, Los Angeles Superior Court being one of them. A huge benefit of our system is that you actually get Los Angeles Superior Court documents with your subscription. So I'm on a docket page right now. I would simply go to the docket entry for the document I want and press Get Document. Now, this is a docket page. You'll find most everything you'd find on a county court website, hopefully a little bit easier to understand and, of course, enhanced with additional data. Again, parties, when we say parties, we mean both the attorneys and the actual litigants, but we'll break down who's who, and clicking on that party or that counsel will take you to their other cases. And then finally, let's check out where we have a document already live on our site and show you our document page for a moment. So if you start to scroll down, it will load the image of the first page of the document. We're still in this case looking at Honorable Nia Tu's discrimination cases right now. And you'll notice that you can actually search the entire body and text of the document. You can determine, is it useful? Is it on point? Is this what you wanted? Now, let's say that the document's close, but you wanted the answer in this case. You didn't want the complaint. Well, anytime you see the case number, you can click on the docket, and that's going to take you back to the docket of the case. And then the docket is where you can grab any of the other documents that were filed in that case. So you can either click on the thumbnail, or just like below, you can click on the document button next to the docket entry that the document is associated with. So that's the way to think about doing judge research. You can continue to really drill down and learn so much. I like mixing causes of action, particular motion types, combinations of a motion type and a legal issue, and my judge. So one way to think about digging in is what are additional search terms? Almost in the way that you would search Google, or Westlaw Next being another example. Natural language and an additional search terms will always continue to get you into more and more relevant data. So that's the way to think about judge research, judge and whatever the relevant legal issue is, and really starting to dig in there. Now let's take a step back and think about how to utilize the state court system to draft better motions. So we, as I mentioned, have over 100 million filed documents that are live and searchable on Trellis. These are all filed state trial court documents. So there is so much useful information there that you can utilize to get a starting place. So a couple ways to think about drafting motions. One would be to utilize our library, basically our motions and issues library. What we do is we go high level on most common legal issues, most common motion types in particular jurisdictions. So in this case, we'd be searching across California. And we give you all the basics that you need to know. So a basic primer or treatise. Now, what is different from searching on our motions and issues library as opposed to, say, a rudder guide or another treatise? Well, the difference is we're going to give you the basics of everything you need to know, are there discovery requirements, etc. But we immediately map you to cases dealing with whatever the legal issue is or whatever the motion type is, so that you can see for yourself how these matters are making their way through the trial courts. So I like to think of a rudder guide as your academic legal research, sort of what should the Court of Appeals case law be? With Trellis, this is what it should be. That's great to know. But what are judges actually applying right now? And that can be as valuable a piece of information to understand. Another thing that I used to do, I was customer number one on Trellis for a number of years when we were aggregating the data, and I continued to use it in practice. And one of the things that I was incredibly successful utilizing was a tentative ruling by my judge on my motion type, and basically utilizing the outline of the way the judge analyzed their ruling, and using that as a basic skeleton for writing the motion back to the judge, knowing the case law that the judge cited, understanding the way to structure and organize the argument for a ruling. So I found that to be incredibly useful. I highly recommend looking through rulings and seeing if you can find one that's really on point. I would also say not to underestimate if you can find a ruling by your judge on your issue. I mean, that's gold for sure. But don't underestimate utilizing another judge's really well-written tentative ruling as an outline for a motion. Now, in addition to that, you can actually use the entire state trial court system as a brief bank. So you are no longer narrowed to something you've written in the past, something that someone in your firm has written in the past. Now you can actually search the state trial court system and find documents, filed documents that are really on point. Not only that, but have been successful in the past. Let's start by using successful motions as an outline for our documents. So one of the things that's special about us is when you're searching filed documents, you are not only searching the case title or the document title, you're searching the body and text of the filed document. So documents on our site are indexed, which means when you're searching in our search bar, you are also searching the body and text of filed documents. We are growing quickly. We're already actually at over 110 million, and obviously growing daily as cases continue to progress forward and as new cases are filed in all of the counties that we cover. Here's an example of a document page. We looked at one quickly, but I'll go ahead and dive in for some real examples as well. So if I wanted to use Trellis as a brief bank, I'm simply going to start, again, your substantive research will always be in the Smart Search in your search bar. I'm just going to start with title of the document that I want to find motions for. So now I'm going to go too broad here. If you're searching in California, I'm now searching for, I want to be in the documents tab when I'm using this as a brief bank, because I specifically want to be searching documents. And now I'd want to add additional information here. So summary judgment, and I'm going to be bringing in all kinds of documents that are related to summary judgments, like judgments and orders and notice of motion, etc. So two things you want to think about. One is adding and legal issues and your relevant legal terms to get to documents that are going to be on point for you. The other is you can come in and you can filter in your search results to particular practice areas, motion types, particular outcomes, particular judge or county. So let's actually do an example of that again. Let's say we wanted to find summary judgment documents that have been filed before Honorable Abdallah. I'm going to do that same trick and judge colon and the judge's last name. Now I could also have gone in and simply clicked on Abdallah down there. That would have worked as well. But now you see I am specifically looking for documents that were filed before Honorable Abdallah. Same thing with county. If I wanted to narrow to a particular county, I'm going to use the same piece that I did here, judge colon, but I'm going to say county colon, and then the title of, or the name of the county. Now, one thing I mentioned, remember when you're searching broad, you're going to be searching across a lot of different types of documents. So you're going to be searching your memo of P's and A's and your proposed order and your notice of motion. To narrow down, simply add and in the additional relevant terms. So make sure you've added your legal terms that matter, and then whatever else is going to get you to where you need to be. So if I wanted a proposed order for summary judgment, I'm going to add and proposed order. If I want the memorandum of points and authorities, I'm going to add and memo. Now I'm specifically picking up the memorandums of points and authorities. let's jump into one again. This is where you want to search through the document. You want to understand, does it cover your same use case? Is the case law where you want to be? You can just really get to such a good starting place by finding a well-written motion and utilizing that as a starting place for your motion. But now remember, all of the same functionality fits on every one of our pages. So if you wanted to jump into a particular party, you would just click on the party. If you wanted to click on, and you didn't want the original memo, but you wanted the opposition instead, simply click on the case number. Now you're back in the docket of the case for the document that we were just on. And now you come in and can find the specific document that you wanted the opposition in that case. So you will be shocked at the incredibly useful information you can find by searching the body and text of filed documents, especially where there is difficult procedural questions or discovery questions, things that never make it to appeal. So they're never going to make it onto Lexis or Westlaw. They live at the state trial court level. And that, of course, is what you're searching when you're utilizing Trellis. Oh, I actually wanted to give an example of class action settlements as well for anyone who practices class action work or whose firm does. One thing to remember that is extremely exciting is that class action settlements, because they have to be approved by the judge, all of the settlement figures are on Trellis. What did they settle for? What was the class size? What went to attorney's fees? That was special to my heart since it's what I practiced, but can change the entire trajectory of a case. And you can even dig deep and say, I don't just want to find class action settlements. I want to find what my opposing counsel has settled class actions for in the past on this issue. I mean, there's so many ways to really set yourself up for success there. But overall, for searching filed documents, what are some of the things you can think about searching? Well, legal issue, motion type, outcome, judge, case type. But of course, my favorite, mix and match. This judge on this motion type where this legal issue. So that's the way that I find the most relevant information is I continue to add and the strategic additional relevant terms that are going to really help give me insights. Of course, there's tons of information you can find by looking for documents that have been filed before your judge before, including understanding your judge. Do they have technical pet peeves, requirements, evidentiary requirements? All of that you can learn more just by digging in and sort of from the start, before you draft the motion, understanding the way your judge has ruled on similar motions. Here's an example I did, Judge Cronland and motion to compel arbitration. I wanted to find motions to compel ARB that were filed before Honorable Cronland. The same thing you can do for judge, you can do for party. So instead of looking up a particular judge, look up a corporation or a company. Where are they getting sued? By whom? Who's represented them in the past? And remember, you're not limited to a particular county. You're not limited across counties. You can actually search across states to understand how particular parties behave in litigation. So here I did an example. I picked on 3M, maker of masks and many other products. And I wanted to find their memorandums, their summary judgment memorandums that were filed by 3M. Did a answer to a cross complaint by Best Buy. All right, so you get the point. There is so much you can do in searching filed documents, in searching for your judge, and searching particular motions. Now, how do you zoom out even further? How do you use case valuation and verdict data to make some better decisions and set some expectations regarding cases? Well, we have verdict data going back to 2009 for California. And you may have noticed whenever I search in the search bar, one of the buckets that I was searching was verdicts. So what's happening there is it's running a free text search for my search terms and pulling up any cases since 2009 that have gone to verdict that include my search terms. But let's say you have very specific questions. You know the judge and you only want to look up, oops, I'll be in the verdicts, and you want to look up that judge's verdicts. You want to look up verdicts in a particular county. You want to find where a specific expert has testified or where specific injuries are alleged. This is where you can do a lot of that narrowing to specific classifications here. So you can search by county or by injury type, by party, and then continue to narrow down there. So I'll give some examples. Let's stay in California for a moment. And I want to find anywhere where a leg injury was alleged. So now whatever I'm searching in the Smart Search, in the verdict section, I am always going to be running the aggregate analytics for my search. Now, what do we look at? We look at the lowest case that's gone to verdict. We look at the highest case that's gone to verdict, and then we tell you the average. Now, the average is always going to be thrown off by some ridiculously high verdict or ridiculously low verdict. So we also tell you the median. We think the median is actually a closer proxy to what average likely is. Let me tell you the breakdown. Now, 50-50 isn't particularly helpful, but at least you know it's not a landslide one way or the other. And then below that, we tell you the cases that actually make up that data. So you can dig in yourself. And one of the things that's different about having this data is that it's not verdict data, blurb, and sort of a number taken out of context. With Trellis, what we do is for any verdict, we map it to the underlying docket. So you can understand the underlying case, what happened, what were the documents that were filed in that case, and really get some of the context for particular verdicts to be able to have a more meaningful understanding of them. So of course, you can click on any one of the cases, and I'll just jump into one. This is a Los Angeles case. So it's going to take me to the docket of the case, just like if we went to any one of our other docket pages, but it's going to now be enhanced with additional verdict information. So what was the demand? What was the offer? What actually happened? You can find a ton of interesting information here. But again, we map it to the case. We'll also let you know if there were particular experts that testified in the case. And you can search those experts here. Now, just like clicking on any party, if you click on an expert, it is going to take you to all of that expert's other litigation. So I'm going to click on this guy, Mr. Muse, right here. And what I'm doing now is I'm searching for other cases where John Muse has testified and the case has gone all the way to verdict. So you can see here about 6 other cases. Now from there, I could see, are those high stakes cases? Are they low stakes cases? Did the side that he was testifying for win? So a lot of great ways to do expert research in the state trial court system as well. One thing I'll note here is when you're using this classifier, this expert colon and the expert's last name, we are only searching cases where John Muse actually testified and the case has gone all the way to jury verdict. But what if you just want to find cases where maybe he was designated, but the case didn't make it all the way to verdict and you want to understand those more? I'm going to take out the expert and then just search his name. And now I can potentially find other cases where his testimony could be attached as exhibits. A lot of times that is something that you can actually dig in on and understand. So just a reminder that if you use a classifier, it's going to be very specific to searching that classification. Otherwise, if you just do a free text search, it's going to be searching for John Muse, but across whether it shows up in the body and text of documents, or it shows up in a ruling or a docket entry as well. But searching experts is another common use case on Trellis as well. All right. So finally, let's talk about other types of strategic research that you can do, and then we'll end by talking about how to set alerts and to really set yourself up to be an expert in the way that cases are changing. So to start out with strategic research, what are some other considerations? I would say to consider utilizing the state trial court system as a starting place for your legal research, even if you're talking about just a general legal issue. So a lot of times, if you start at the state trial court system, you can actually quickly dig into cases. You can see what is the legal threshold that folks are citing to right now? How are judges handling that? And from there, you can actually get some of the basics of information that now, if you wanted to go to a Court of Appeals research website, well, now you know what you're looking for. You're not down sort of various rabbit holes before you even figure out what are the elements you're trying to prove in the first place. So I highly recommend not only thinking of the state trial court system as a place to look up a particular case or to look up a particular document. Of course, you can do that, but think about utilizing it strategically to really zoom out and understand legal issues in their entirety, to understand the way a judge thinks about their cases. So there's so much more than simply looking up a docket that you can do with a state trial court system. What are some other things to think about now that you can search the state trial court system, now that this data is finally accessible in a way that it never has been? Well, we talked about expert testimony. Another common one is jury instructions. So a lot of great lawyers will start with jury instructions from the very start of their case. They want to understand what are they going to need to demonstrate to the jury. Now, starting with cases are one of them, understand sort of state-sponsored jury instructions. But you can now go deeper. You can actually see jury instructions that were used in very similar cases. If your opposing counsel has ever actually taken a case like this to jury, you can see what they've used. So you can get insights in jury instructions that have just never been possible before. You can also do some really interesting sort of bias analysis. 170.6s. You can search your judge and 170.6 and see how often do they get dinged? By whom? Who does the case get reassigned to? Understand the pool of likely judges that the case gets reassigned to. And then you do the judge analytics dashboard for that judge. And now you can actually see a more holistic understanding of risk. If you were to ding the judge, what is the potential that you could get placed in front of a judge who might even be less favorable for your case? So remembering to really think about that you're not limited anymore in your ability to search the state trial court system. Whatever strategic way you can think about really digging in on data, you can do that now. Another common sort of bias consideration are motions to disqualify. Have there been motions to disqualify brought against your judge? By whom? Has your opposing counsel moved to disqualify the judge before? So tons of really interesting information you can find if you just do a little bit of proactive thought from the start of the case on what to search about your judge. Good faith settlements are another common one where obviously settlements are generally confidential. But with good faith settlements, you have a variety of defendants, and in order to get out of the case, the defendant has to get approval from the judge, similar to class actions. Now you'll see exactly what they were able to settle the case for in the past. So that can be really useful when you are going against larger corporations and they have a lot of a history where they're involved with other defendants in cases. Don't forget opposing counsel. So if I had to sort of stack rank the most common research, state trial court research, it goes judge, opposing counsel, legal issue, document. Those are sort of interchangeable, but opposing counsel is number 2. It is the most common thing, second to judges, that gets researched at the state trial court level. So when you research opposing counsel, what should you be looking for? Well, you can start with looking at their dockets. How many cases do they have? Do they handle this type of case very often? Do they ever take cases to trial? This is all information that will be in their docket history now. Another thing you can do is understand if they settle cases, when. Is it before MSJ? Is it after MSJ? So again, really thinking strategically about how to get into the mind of your opposing counsel and understand their playbook. And the data is available now. You can do that. So 2 ways to think about searching for your opposing counsel. One is searching for the law firm. So I would simply type in the law firm's name here. The other is to search for the individual attorney that you're going against. So here I'm picking on Louis Brisbois. And again, we're still in California here, so I'm searching across state trial courts in California. I'm in documents right now. I'm in documents that have been filed in cases where they are counsel. Now I could add additional pieces of information. I could narrow to the particular case type that I'm dealing with them. I could narrow to the legal issues. I could narrow to the individual attorney that I'm dealing with. But this is a great way to gain incredible insights. In the same way that I would narrow, I would first get into my judge's data, and then I would add relevant search terms, legal issues, causes of action. It's the same way I search opposing counsel and start to really get into prior cases. I also really love digging in on documents filed by opposing counsel in similar cases. You can almost understand how they're likely to position an issue again if you can see how they did so in the past. And that can really set you up to be strategic long before motion practice really takes off. So researching opposing counsel is an incredibly important, incredibly strategic use case as a way to utilize this data. Here I picked on Bisnar Chase, a plaintiff's firm. Again, you can do Bisnar Chase and then the specific individual attorney I was going against. Then I would be searching the firm or the attorney. Now, one thing to note is some counties list the individual attorney. Some counties list the law firm. I recommend searching both. Kind of the way you would think about formulating searches on Google, where you try something, you see some results, and you try something again. You're going to want to get in there and get creative and play around. The good news is that because we index the body and text of the filed documents, whether you're searching the law firm or the attorney, if the filed documents are there, you're going to be able to find them because of the caption of the case. So if you're searching the attorney, you'll see the law firm. If you're searching the law firm, you'll be able to see who was the attorney that was the moving party in the documents that were filed. And then final note before we talk about alerts quickly is you have a magic wand to search the state trial court system from a single source. So remember that you're not limited to the county that you're researching. You're not limited to only find cases where you know a docket number. You can search by judge or opposing counsel or any combination of those. And you can do so not only across counties, but across states. If you add additional states to your search, just like we were in California searching across the state trial courts, you're searching across the state trial courts for all of the states that you select. Now, if you selected all of the states, that would be searching across all of those states. And actually, before we do this, I want to show you alerts really quickly. So final note, then we'll open it up to Q&A as well, is that we function as an alerting platform, which means you can kind of let Trellis do some of the research for you, and we'll let you know when something is useful. Now, let's jump into a couple things. Let's say you wanted to track a particular case. Great. Lots of ways to set alerts. One is in the docket of the case, anywhere where you see track case changes. Basically, this is a shortcut to an alert that will immediately set this as an alert. Now, what are alerts for us? Basically, we function a lot like Google alerts. You're going to get an email in the morning with everything that triggered your alerts from the day before. But you're not limited to only tracking cases. If you track a case, you're basically going to get notified with changes to the docket entry changes. But there's other things you can track as well. You can track a judge. You can track particular parties. Anywhere where you see this little bell, this is going to be a shortcut to set yourself an alert for that particular issue. But another note is that you are not limited to only searching parties or judges or cases. You can, in fact, any sophisticated search that you can run a search for, you can set yourself an alert for. So if I wanted to find everywhere where Louis Brisbois is fighting some sort of negligence matter, and let's say I ran this search and there was average information right now, but I just want to get notified if they file a negligence case going forward or if they're defending one. Right here, I'm going to press track this topic. Basically, this has now added this alert topic. And the same thing is going to happen. We're constantly running this search in the background as data is getting updated by all the courts. And we let you know in the morning with an email, hey, these cases have been added that match your search terms. So you can make sure you really stay up to date. You can also add other recipients. You can say, I want other folks in my firm to get this alert along with me, or I want them to get it instead of me. Let's set it for an associate. They can watch it and let me know if something is useful. So you can always do that. A lot of functionality with alerts as well. And if you want to control all of your alerts, you can always come over here to your profile. And now I'm in my alerts control panel. And this is where I can control. If I wanted to add a ton of alerts, I could do so here. We find that folks often do it while they're actually searching, but if you just wanted to search dockets or something very specific and you wanted to put a number in, easy place to do it. Now all of your alerts will show below, and I'm going to have far too many alerts set here, but way down at the bottom of the page are going to be examples, suggestions. So again, judge, company, party, but my favorite legal topics, new legislation, new Supreme or appellate case law that you want to see as judges are dealing with these issues. How are they interpreting them? Get notified as these issues are moving through. Can really make sure in areas where you absolutely need to stay an expert for your client and you need to let them know if something could be an issue on appeal or how new appellate cases are actually being interpreted at the lower court level. This is a way to really make sure that you can stay an expert. So a lot of good stuff with alerts as well. And on that note, I'd love to open it up for any questions. I'll see what we've got here. One question was, any plans to include federal judges? And the answer is we're really focusing on the state trial court system right now. It is a large, massive beast of a system, and we're doing the best we can to continue to bring on new data. We'll be 26 states by the end of this year, over 1,000 counties. On that note, let me show you our coverage. And what I will say is, does it mean we'll never cover federal courts? No. In fact, if you go into our judges, we have bios for federal court judges right now. So if you ever search in here and you don't see the judge pop up, it could be that analytics aren't live for them yet. But remember, we have bios for everybody. So if there is a specific district court judge that you want to take a look at, feel free to search them here. Just make sure that analytics only is toggled off, because if it's a federal judge, we won't have analytics for them. So that's one thing to know about federal judges. The other is, if you want to understand our coverage in general, you can always come to the footer of any one of our pages. And what we're going to do is we're super transparent with our coverage. We let you know in every state exactly what we cover. So how many counties, what types of cases, what features on our site. Now, that's great, but you say, but I want to know more. Tell me the actual courts that you cover. Well, if you click on any one of our states that you're interested in, then we're going to take you in court by court and tell you what we cover. Anytime that a court is listed, it means we go back at least 15 years of historical docket data. If we have filed documents for that county, it's going to go back to when the county started e-filing or digitizing documents. For some counties, closer to 2012 or 2015, as I'm sure you all know, some counties aren't there yet. If you do have to send a runner into the court, we won't cover documents in that court yet, but surely documents and potentially analytics will be available for them. One way to know if we do have filed documents in the county that you're interested in is this little asterisk. If you see the asterisk, it means we have filed documents searchable on our system for that county. We also now, we mentioned some of the counties, Los Angeles coming with your subscription, but there are a couple other counties we can't purchase the documents for our users across all of the purchase counties, but you can purchase them on our site. That's going to be San Diego, Orange County, Sacramento, a couple others as well. So know that. And a cool thing about doing that is a document is only ever purchased on our site once. And within 24 hours, it gets added to our library, our crowdsourced library, which means you're constantly benefiting from what all of your peer firms are requesting on our site as well. Any other questions? All right, well, really appreciate everyone spending time with me today. What I will say is, feel free to reach out to us if you're interested in trying it out. We also do enterprise trials. If it sounds like something that could be useful for your firm, we let you guys get in and actually play with the system. We know that you know what's going to be useful for your practice. And we find that we create champions by letting you guys get in and actually search the data yourselves. So you can feel free to reach out to us at sales@trellis.law, or simply jump into our site and start playing at trellis.law/search.